Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Mystic in Training podcast with me, your host, Melissa Amos. I record this episode just a couple of days after returning back from an absolutely incredible trip to New York City that I went to with 5 other women. And what I've realized is that some of the most spiritual experiences of my life haven't looked spiritual, at least from the outside at all. They've looked like boarding a plane. They've looked like sitting in a first class lounge being offered champagne and noticing what comes up in my body. They've looked like leaving my family and trusting what's about to unfold. And this week, it's looked like spending time in close proximity with 5 other women who, like me, are entrepreneurs. But we have very different lives and different edges and different energies and different boundaries and different ways of viewing the world. And just noticing what happens when we're put together in, well, in this instance, a rather large brownstone house in uptown New York. Now, I went to New York definitely expecting experiences, and indeed, there were many. One of the reasons we went, well, the main reason we went is because one of our friendship group, Des DeBreva, had the honor of being on a billboard in Times Square. So, of course, we all said yes when the opportunity arrived. And we all knew that something huge was going to happen. Like it really felt like this week was going to be an up level in some way. But what stayed with me was not just that, not really even the visible up levels. What stayed with me is what happens in relationship, what it feels like to stay in my own center when life was doing life around me, and what I left with, which maybe you could call it an up level, but it seemed more that New York was this space of arrival, this space of acceptance, that rather than this city causing a identity upgrade, it seemed for me to meet me where I am. And a lot of that has to do with not only the city itself, but the women that I had the pleasure of accompanying me across this week. And of course, the path that I've been walking over these last, well, many years. Now, we may have been followed around by a photographer who, by the way, was amazing, but we didn't go to New York just for the content. For me, I went because something in me called me, something in me said yes. Something in me was like, something is going to happen here that is going to change the way that you see yourself. Now, I've traveled with women before, and I am very blessed to have such an incredible friendship group. But traveling with other women can feel really loaded. And I have to say that since I've got home and I've been speaking to other friends, that has been this underlying question of, well, what is it really like to travel with all of these women? And, you know, the women I was with, we're all very strong personalities. We all have our way of viewing the world. We all are leaders in our own way. Now, if we couple that with the cultural stories that we carry around sisterhood, around competition, around boundaries, I was curious to see what would happen when the 5 of us got together and navigated through what can be a very intense city. But here's what I noticed. Over the last few years, I've really, and especially the last 12 months, I have really been leaning into what is it that I want? What is it that is driving my behavior? And this question of whenever I react or respond or have a choice in front of me of where is this coming from? Is this coming from a program? Is this coming from a fear? Or is this coming from my soul, from a higher part of me, or from desire, from gratitude? And I began to notice that an older version of me would have very much been, um, I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm just going to do what everyone else says. And then kind of feeling a low level resentment about doing something against my wishes or, not being considered. And this time it felt very different. This time it seemed that it flowed a lot better. And I can really put that down to having an openness, having a curiosity, walking, as I've been saying, the Akashic way. So understanding that every moment matters, that every moment has a potency, and not in a, because I have definitely been this in the past, not in a, oh my God, every moment matters, so I need to like milk the whole holiday and be doing something every single second of every day, and don't you dare waste my time, which is definitely a program that I had running. But in this openness and in this allowance, in this witnessing the pleasure of other people's pleasure, and also in the when there was a boundary, when there was something that was important for me, voicing it and not letting it rumble underneath the surface. And what was so interesting is that every time I allowed myself to express a concern or a boundary or a preference, it was received so well because I believe it was really coming from this space of truth and openness and equality and sovereignty. And that, I think, is the deep work that I've been doing that has allowed me to show up in this way. Because I don't know about you, but maybe you've been in close proximity with other women. And I do have to say that whilst we as a friendship group speak pretty much every day, we don't see each other all that regularly. And, but we don't live together. And we don't even really socialize all that often together. And the longest I've known anyone in there is 5 years, and more closely for 2 years. And so it's not like there's been this whole big long history. And when you think about coming into such close proximity with a bunch of friends, I think that you can anticipate that there'll be drama, or you can anticipate that there'll be disagreements. And whilst I can certainly say that not everybody wanted the same thing at the same time every time, it was that respect of, well, I know who I am and I honor myself. And this is, I think, what the key that comes first. I honor myself and I honor my boundaries. And I'm coming from that place of win-win. I'm coming from that place of this is something that a higher version of me, if you like, wants to experience, and the honoring of other people. I mean, for me to see Des on that billboard was such an incredible experience. And that day it was about her, but it wasn't about her in a, selfless martyry way. Like, what pleasure did I have and the other girls have of witnessing this and being there and supporting her and the silly things that we did in Times Square to promote it. It was hilarious. And then, as a thank you from Des to us for being there and supporting her in this way, we had a 3-hour trip in this incredible limo around New York City and went to eat pizza and went to see Brooklyn Bridge and, and had a tour around. And again, we didn't all want to do the same things at the same time, but there was this openness and this honor of, I see you and I see me. And I really think that's the key. I think beforehand, when when it came to, certainly for me, wanting to navigate female friendships, as somebody who is empathic and I'm super aware of how other people feel, is my priority always was, I just want to make sure that you're happy. And whilst that might seem very altruistic and wonderful, actually it was coming from a program that told me that unless they're happy, I'm not safe. But what I came to notice is actually that my happiness was directly related to their happiness, that when we were all together as a group and we all allowed ourselves to express our needs and we all allowed ourselves to say, you know what, no, I'm going to stay home today, or I'm going to be here, or you go there and I'm just going to go and walk off for a minute, or guys, what do you think about doing this? With an openness, with a sovereignty, not with a blah, blah. It it just, I don't know how to explain it, but it just seemed to flow. I would say our boundaries were all there, yet they weren't rigid. And everything that was expressed between us was expressed with that reverence that this is all of our holiday. And whilst we probably all had something particular that we did want to do, for example, the three of us went ice skating in the Rockefeller Center, which was so cool. And three didn't want to go. And so they went and grabbed a coffee and then spent probably half the time on the barriers laughing at us as we were as we were skating around trying to look graceful, which by the way, in my mind, I was very graceful, and those shocking videos told a completely different story, but who cares? It was wonderful. We had a great time. So the spoiler is, how did we get on? Well, we all got on really well. And it wasn't because we tried, and it wasn't because we gave up ourselves. I think that's the point. No one gave up on themselves. And when we saw that tendency maybe starting to happen once or twice, for me, it was a reminder of no, hold your own, hold your boundaries, remember who you are, and express that all with love. And we did. And it lifted everyone. I've learned that friendship is less about abandoning myself for the needs of the greater good, but more about aligning my desires, my happiness, my openness, my gratitude with the higher good. And the higher good just kind of seems to work it all out. My job was to manage my own energy and my own boundaries and my own sense of peace. And as I did that, everything around me recalibrated to that. And we were just having a conversation about quite how incredible the rhythm was, that we're showing my age here, but we went to bed at a reasonable time. There was none of this like, let's gonna see who's going to outperform who. And we ate well, and we rested when we needed to, and we went out when we needed to, and we laughed at each other, and we embraced our quirks. And for me, it was really refreshing to be so seen, but I also realized that a lot of that came to do with how willing I was to be seen myself. That just doing the silly things that I do when I'm in my own home and letting that be witnessed by these women who, if when you see them and if you know any of them from social media, you'll see that they are vibrant and they are fun and they are leaders and they're sassy and they're so incredible. And to allow for myself to be seen in my wholeness. And the amount of times it was confirmed to me that I'm weird, but not in a bad way, like in this endearing, loving way, that it was me that allowed that to happen, and it was them who witnessed it. And I think that was the secret. And so, did New York up level me? Sure. But did it up level me in a way that I thought was going to happen? No. The sisterhood, the camaraderie, the allowing myself to be received, my whole self to be received, and understanding what the difference is between my patterns and my higher wisdom and my higher self. That's the difference. That's the difference. That's really what allowed me to calibrate. And I'm sure it healed another layer of sisterhood. And the sisterhood wound is rife, especially in circles such as we are in, where it seems to all be about competition. We were having this conversation in New York about the premise of the survival of the fittest and that we live in a dog eat dog world. And my contribution to that was, well, if you think about the people that you actually know, like your friends and your family, like generally people are kind. Generally, people love to do things for other people. And like I was saying about the billboard moment, when we witness somebody in their joy, or when we serve somebody in from that act of love, we get such an incredible feeling. We're literally hardwired for it. And I think it's that, and bringing that into our friendship, because what I do often see, especially in the online world, is people tearing each other down and being told that, if they've got it, then you can't. And what I witnessed, and I kept on demonstrating and have demonstrated to me, that as one rises, we all rise together. As we rise, we hold a new standard. And my job is to keep letting that be witnessed and to keep witnessing in everyone else. And as we do that, magic unfolds. I had the week of my life, and it came not from one spiritual practice that I did. It came from this culmination of, I know who I am. I know my shortcomings. I know my hormonal cycles. I know my patterns. And what is it that I am letting guide me right now? And from there, letting myself be seen in all of it. And so, New York, you didn't change me because you're New York. New York changed me because of how I allowed myself to show up, because I stayed in my center, because I honored my boundaries, because I let myself be seen fully, imperfectly, honestly, because I surrendered it all into my higher wisdom. And I knew that that will always have not just my back, but the needs of the whole group. So maybe that's the real work. Not becoming somebody new, but allowing ourselves to be met where we really are already. So, yes, we all got on very, very well. And I can't wait to see where life meets us next. And who knows next time, well, where we will be as we continue this, knowing that it's safe enough to expand and to keep on expanding and to keep increasing that capacity. Like, I, for one, am excited. And New York, I thank you for witnessing me and for holding me into that acceptance, because I have come back changed. But New York, it wasn't because of you. It was because of me and how I showed up and how I allowed myself to show up. And with all of that, it will always have a special place in my heart. And so this has been another episode of the Mystic in Training podcast, and I will share with you some of the other experiences as we moved on. I'll see you next time.